All right, everybody, we got a new Decktech here. Another budget one, $25, minus the basic lands, which is not bad for a commander deck. We're going mono green with Ruxa, Patient Professor, 2 colorless, double green for a 4/4 Bear Druid. When Ruxa, Patient Professor enters the battlefield or attacks, return target card with no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. Creatures you control with no abilities get +1/+1, and you may have creatures you control with no abilities assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. So Ruxa here, Ruxa is plain Jane tribal, and we have a bunch of them. But first, we're going to talk about some of our ability Alices over here, because we do have a few creatures in our deck that have abilities. I didn't go all in on the theme. I wanted some of our creatures to do some things because they work very well, and I'll show you. So we'll start off with Avenger of Zendikar and Fang Druid Summoner. Avenger of Zendikar is 5 colorless, double green for a 5/5 elemental. When this creature enters, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. And as landfall, which is whenever a land enters, you get a 1/1 counter on each plant creature you control. This is a big body. I mean, Avenger of Zendikar is a very classic commander card in green, but those tokens have no abilities. So once they start growing, they can start doing damage as if they weren't blocked. Crazy good stuff. Fang Druid Summoner. 3 colorless and a green for a 2/4 with reach, Ape Druid. When this creature enters, you may search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with no abilities, reveal it, put it in your hand, and if you search your library this way, shuffle. It's a tutor from your library or graveyard to get one of your big beaters with no abilities. Very good card. We got a pair of dorks in the deck here. Elvish Mystic and Land War Elves. 1 green, 1/1 elves that tap for green. That's it. Now next we have Oak Street Innkeeper. 2 colorless and a green for a 1/2 elf. As long as it's not your turn, tapped creatures you control have hexproof, which does give them an ability. I understand that, but we really only care about their lacking abilities when we're swinging, so that's okay. With that, we also have a classic landfall finisher in this deck. We're not slamming too many lands at a time, but landfall's just good. It's because you're going to be playing lands. So it's 4 colorless, double green for a 6/6 with Trample Beast. And landfall, whenever a land enters, create a 4/4 green beast creature token. This is just spawning big-bodied creatures with no abilities. And that's awesome. Next we have Runic Armasaur and Scavenging Ooze. Runic Armasaur is whenever an opponent activates... it's a colorless, double green for a 2/5 dino. And whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. So it's some of our card advantage in green so that we can make sure that we're picking up cards. Since, green can do all the stuff now. It's really good. Colorless and green for a 2/2 for Scavenging Ooze for news. Classic graveyard hate piece in green. It's pay a green, exile a card in a graveyard. If it's a creature, grow Scavenging Ooze with a +1/+1 counter and gain a life. Just a good body. It's just nice to have graveyard hate in your deck. And it's a very low cost of inclusion to just slot it in here. All right. Next, because we're basically just running a bunch of creatures with nothing going on about them, we're just running 5 different Anthem effects to just make our dudes huge. We got Gaia's Anthem, which is colorless double green for an enchantment. Creatures you control get 1/1. Very good. Master Chef, 2 colorless and a green, which for a legendary enchantment background. I would argue this is very much an Anthem. Commander creatures you own have this creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, and other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. Sounds like an Anthem to me. Next we have Muraganda Petroglyphs and Oran Reef the Vastwood. Muraganda Petroglyphs is 3 colors and a green. For an enchantment, creatures with no abilities get +2/+2. Very simple. Oran Reef of the Vastwood is another one of our odd anthems because it comes in our land base, but it enters tapped, adds green, or you can tap it and put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that enters the battlefield this turn. So we have, like you had with our Avenger of Zendikar and Rampaging Baloths, we have ways to put down multiple tokens, especially in a turn. So this can just tap, anthem all of those that just dropped. Very good. And our last anthem is literally, we started with one, we'll end with one. Sylvan Anthem. Double green enchantment. Green creatures you control get +1/+1. And whenever a green creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. Just a fantastic green creature anthem. Very good. Alright, now we got a few ways to draw some more cards in this deck. So we can see and find our big threats. We have Garruk. I think it's Garruk. Primal Hunter, 2 colors, triple green. He's a Planeswalker that starts at 3 loyalty. +1 him to get a 3/3 green beast creature token. Has no abilities, very important. So he's a creature factory for green. He's a creature factory for green creatures with no abilities. Everything we want. We can also draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures we control. Very cool, since a lot of our creatures have no abilities. They're generally way stronger than they cost. So that's awesome. And then -6 is get a 6/6 worm, a green worm for each token, creature token for each land you control. And that's bonkers. That's so good. There's so many bodies that don't have abilities that are huge to end the game. We have Hunter's Insight. 2 colors and a green. Instant. Choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. Very simple. Just get in, draw a bunch. Then we have Mouth to Feed. 2 colors and a green for a sorcery for the mouth part, which is you get a 3/3 green hippo creature token. So 3 mana for a 3/3 body with no abilities. Pretty on the nose, that's right there. However, if you have Feed, if it's in your graveyard, you can cast the Aftermath part of it, which is Feed, which is 3 colors and a green for a sorcery, which draw a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. And since most of our creatures, we have 2 power dudes, but for the most part, I think our smallest creatures have 3 power. Next, we have Ranger class. Colorless and green. When Ranger class enters, you get a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Again, no abilities, so it's just 2 mana 2/2. That's already pretty standard, good on its own. So while this is a draw spell, but it is functionally just a on-curve body for our theme, which is great. You can put 2 more mana into it. To whenever you attack, you get a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Excellent to grow our vanilla dudes. You can put 4 more mana into it. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So some card advantage there. Very good. And then another classic card advantage engine / finisher is Return of the Wildspeaker, which is 4 colors and a green. For an instant, choose 1. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, which is the vast majority of our creatures, if not all of them. Non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Just an incredible way to end the game if we've dropped a bunch of tokens and swing out with Grxyl on the board. And then they none of them care about the meat block. You just kill everybody. It's great. So before I get to the finishers, I do want to talk about 2 really cool pieces of evasion for the deck. So we have Bower Passage and Dense Canopy, both 2 mana enchantments. Colorless and green. Bower Passage is creatures with flying can't block creatures you control. And then Dense Canopy is creatures with flying can't block creatures without flying. So, which is functionally the same thing for us. But to be fair, it's important to note creatures with flying can't block creatures without flying. That affects the whole board. Whereas like that would affect us anyway because none of our creatures have abilities. But it also makes sure that our opponents who have flyers, their other opponents are now easier targets if all of their defense is like in reach or something. But these are just good ways to limit our opponent's blocking options so that even if they do have blockers to try to kill some of our creatures in the exchange, because if we assign combat damage as though it wasn't blocked, that doesn't mean they don't get killed in the combat exchange. It limits both of these cards limit our opponent's ability to do that to us. All right, we'll start with our finishers. We've got Blanchwood Armor and Scale Up. Blanchwood Armor is a classic, 2 colors and a green. For an aura, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each forest you control. And that's just a huge buff to a creature that you can apply combat damage as if it weren't blocked. And it buffs its butt too, which makes it more likely to live through that exchange. Scale Up is another big beater finishing power for our deck, especially if we've made a bunch of tokens, which you have a whole bunch of ways to do. It's 1 green for a sorcery. Until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a green worm with base power and toughness 6/4. Overload for 4 colors and double green. All of our guys, I mean, some of them, that's a downgrade, but most of our tokens, I think the best ones we make are the 4/4 green beasts outside of the 6/6 worms, which this doesn't reduce their toughness at all. So it's real good with our deck. I love it. And then a couple fun ones. We'll get to Dragon Thread of Tarkir and Sandware Convergence. We'll talk about the throne first because it's kind of a non-bow-ish. 4 colorless for a legendary artifact equipment. For a equip cost of 3. Equip creature has Defender and pay 2 mana and tap it. Other creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. So it gives them trample, which does shut off some of our buffs, and it's a non-bow with our commander's ability for blocking. But it does replace that effect with trample, which makes blocking tricky anyway. So it's not bad, but we have some huge bodies in here that we'll get to. Like we have an ability, a creature with no abilities that has 12 power. So you can get a huge buff for your whole board. Slapping this on the right thing from the deck. And then one of my favorite cards I think ever printed, and I love any excuse to throw it in a deck. Sandworm Convergence is 6 colorless and double green for an enchantment. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, so it helps keep us protected. The finisher part is, at every end step, we get a 5/5 green worm creature token with no abilities. It just generates big bodies with no abilities for us. Love it. We have several pretty standard ways to protect our commander. I'm just going to show them quickly here without really going into detail. As you can see, we have Blossoming Defense, Snakeskin Veil, Swiftfoot Boots, and Spider Umbra. Classic staples for keeping your commander alive. All right, let's talk about our plain Janes. We start with Grizzly Bears, just a colorless and green for a 2/2, and then we have Terrain Elemental, colorless and green for a 3/2. Simple as that. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm showing you kind of like our scale between creatures that have no abilities. Then we have Alpine Grizzly, 2 colors and a green for a 4/2, and Hollow Henge Beast, 3 colorless, double green for a 5/5. Some big middle ground creatures that we have that we can drop with no effects. And then some of our bigger ones, we have our Quakestrider Ceratops and Terrain World Tyrant. Quake Strider Ceratops is 3 colorless double or triple green for a 12/8. That's that 12 I mentioned earlier. Big boy. And then we have Tarian World Tyrant, 2 colorless triple green for a 9/7. That's it. Very good. We have a big variety of threats we can throw from this deck. Some of our removal, I want to go over this real quick. Fade from History and Individual's Disc. Fade from History is 2 colorless, double green for a sorcery. Each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token, then destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So it's given a couple little dudes to our opponents, but we benefit more from having bears on the ground with no abilities. And it also just takes out, if there happens to be like a big artifact player or enchantment player going around, we don't have as many of those things. Like, we don't benefit. That's not a huge amount of tokens we're going to generate, but it could really help us stop an enchantment or artifact deck popping off. All right. Now, we have some ways to generate tokens so that I'm not going to go over all 6 of them because there's just various ways to generate tokens. I'm going to go with some of the ones that I like the most, which is Primeval Bounty and Sylvan Offering. Primeval Bounty is 5 colors and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you get a 3/3 green beast creature token. No abilities? That's awesome. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control to grow all of our big boys bigger. And then Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, gain 3 life. Keeps us in the game, gets us back, keeps us fighting. Very good. Kind of a silly one that I love, but I think it's very good, and I love the political aspect of anything Commander. So I try to include those in decks. Colorless and green for a sorcery, Sylvan Offering. Choose an opponent. You and that player each create an XX green tree folk creature token. So somebody who needs a big blocker to maybe block the bigger threat at the table, you each of those get one. And then you choose an opponent. You and that player each create X/1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens. Now, I know that's crazy to you, but we have all the anthems in our deck. And again, once we have Rux on the board, even if we were to swing in all of our elves at the person that got all of our elves that we gave to, even if they blocked 1/1, ours get in as if they weren't blocked. So us giving our opponents a whole bunch of blockers doesn't matter as much to our deck. Quick highlight of a couple ramp spells, even though it is largely pretty standard ramp package. Couple things to note that I think are fun. We have Coveted Jewel and Druidic Satchel. Coveted Jewel is 6 colorless artifact. One of my favorite cards for Commander. Like, I know it's not specifically Commander. I know it was printed in, I think it was printed in a Commander product. But I think it's specifically for Commander, and it's so good. It's so much fun. 6 colorless. When Coveted Jewel enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. Tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Just so good. Oh, but it starts the mini game of whenever one or more creatures an opponent's control attacks you, and isn't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. Untap it. Very cool. Thankfully, we got a lot of tokens that we can generate, and we got a lot of big bodies. It's very unlikely that we're going to be losing our Jewel, but they're going to want it. And a cute one that I think really works with the deck, it's low budget, and I think really ties in with our Professor, who was our Commander. We have our Druidic Satchel, 3 colorless, pay 2 colorless, and tap it to reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature, we get a 1/1 green Cyberlink creature token. No abilities, so that not only that's a body it generates that works with our Commander. If it's a land, it rams it right onto the battlefield. Untapped, by the way. And then if it's non-creature, non-land, life gain. Very good. Keeps us in the game, keeps sustaining us. I love it. It's a nice little mana sink to put things into. We're green. We're going to have a bunch of mana. And that's the whole deck. I love Ruxa. I love Ruxa, and there's the Selesnya Commander that also, I believe, does the I care about vanilla creatures thing. I'll throw it up here if I remember to. Hopefully I will. But that's it. Be excellent to one another and have a good one.